Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with my good friend Helen Knight. Say hi to everybody, Helen.
Hello, good to be here.
That's the best hello we've had on the podcast so far. We're here to talk today a little bit about plant medicine ceremony and what's available when, say, something's wrong or off, maybe in your body, in your mind, and you're finding that traditional Western approaches might not be completely getting to the root of what's going on within yourself. And there's a hint, there's a clue within yourself that you've got to move in a non-traditional direction. And the funny thing is, these things are actually traditional directions. So we're going to talk a little bit about traditions that have been around for a very long time to help with one's healing and one's expansion of their conscious awareness so that new choices, new opportunities can come in. And Helen is someone that I really respect in this community for providing some guidance, some direction, some options that might be things that you've heard about, been inquisitive about, but would like to get a little more educated so you can make some informed decisions about what's available to really helping you with where you're at in life right now. And so I'd love, Helen, maybe you can share with everyone right now what you're up to in the world and what your work looks like. And then we'll travel. I like to travel back in time to, back to childhood or back to the teen years to what were you up to? What kind of person were you? And some of the, the nudges that life gave you that you were going to end up in this strange direction.
I don't think I knew when I was in the teens, but yeah.
Some clues here.
Yeah. So currently, I moved from Boulder to Taos, New Mexico a year and a half ago, guided by spirit who wanted me here. So currently I'm a healer and I lead plant medicine ceremonies as well as mentoring highly sensitive people and empaths, really helping them learn that their sensitivity is actually their best gift, not their curse.
And you're someone who definitely pointed out for me being very, very sensitive empath. And we met years ago through I think just connecting on that front alone. But then also I did some cacao ceremonies with you, sweat lodges, done a variety of different pieces of the puzzle, so to speak.
Yeah. So that's what I'm currently doing, and how I got here. It's a big maze, but yeah, when I was younger, I knew I was sensitive. I couldn't actually verbalize that, but I rode horses. When I always say horses were my saving grace as a kid. And then I was an exchange student in Chile when I was in high school, my senior year in high school, which was very pivotal. I sort of realized I was Latina inside. And came back and went to college 4 years. And then it was like, no, I'm not going to be a teacher in a public school, which is what I had been studying, and went to Spain to teach English as a second language, improve my Spanish. Thought I was going for a year and spent 17 years abroad. And so wow. I lived in Spain for 2 years, and I traveled around the world for 2 years. And then I went to France to learn French for a year. And then I went back to Chile and lived for 8 years teaching English as a second language, and really thought I was going to be there. And that's where I got sick. Was maybe 33, 34, and felt like I was 94. And the Western medicine really was not giving me any guidance, and I received Reiki.
It's like your connection's cutting out a little bit. I don't know if you're picking that up on hearing me on your end, and if everybody's still hearing her, but for some reason.
And I got Reiki really helped me. So I ended up living in the outback. I couldn't get a job teaching English as a second language, but Spirit knew what they were doing. They wanted me out in the outback. And that's where my whole spiritual path opened up, smack in the middle of Australia. I taught Waldorf kindergarten, and then things just started opening up. Once I started studying Reiki, and then I was there for 2 years, and then Spirit's like, okay, you're done. You're going to Boulder, Colorado. And
Yeah, I want to interrupt you here just because something went wonky with the technology here. Yeah, it looks like we're still recording. Everything's great, but I'm just going to have you just go back to when you said you got sick, and if you could just repeat that aspect. I might have recorded. It looks like our recording's still going, but I lost visual and auditory connection for about 45 seconds there. So just on the
yeah. Okay.
You're still, for some reason, your video keeps getting wonky, freezing.
I know. I might just move location to see if the better. Okay.
All right, this can happen. So
yeah. So
if you could just go back to that piece there and repeat that. I know it's kind of hard, but
yeah. No, I got sick in Chile, and the Western medicine was really not giving me any answers. And so I received Reiki when I was down there. Reiki was pretty big. And then I went over to Sydney, Australia to do my master's. And Reiki, I got really sick, really sick. And the Western medicine was just like, you've got irritable bowel syndrome and we can't do anything for you. Your blood looks like someone who's got AIDS. And that was their answer. And I just thought, not acceptable, not living like that. And that was what started me on my journey as becoming a healer. Yeah. And so I ended up in the outback, Australian outback, teaching Waldorf kindergarten. And then, that land is so powerful. You can still meet Aboriginals who remember meeting their first white person. So the land is very, very powerful. I didn't have anything to do necessarily with the Aboriginals directly, but I was on their land. And I went to Uluru, which is the big sacred rock of theirs, Ayers Rock. It's about 5 hours from Alice Springs. And yeah, my whole world just started expanding in the spiritual realm. And then Spirit guided me to go to Boulder, Colorado. I did not want to live back in the United States. I was very mad, had a temper tantrum, but I listened and came back. I was a foreigner in my own country. I'm from the East Coast, went to Boulder, didn't know anybody, didn't know anything, right? And yeah, it was tough. It was tough, but it took maybe 3 years. And then I started my practice and just continued from there.
Yeah, Boulder can be like that. First few years can be a rough acclimate.
Yeah.
So you find your community. So
exactly. And then, I didn't know what I was going to do, right? I trained as a teacher. I had studied Reiki, but I was doing it a little bit here and there, and I was doing photography as well. And then finally, about 3 years in, I finally had enough clients, and I stopped. I had to nanny. Again, my age, I was just like, oh my God, really? So I had to nanny for a couple of years and really found my feet back in the United States. So and then it just slowly grew, and Dreamtime Healings formed, and then I went into cacao ceremonies, and then in 2019 Spirit said, okay, now bring in the other psychedelic plant medicine. So
how did you, how did you keep getting introduced and kind of dabbling with some of these different forms of medicine? I would say just these different tools that are kind of float below the radar in society. Like Boulder's a place, unique place where these things are more in conversation and their resources are available. So
right. Well, I think my first plant medicine ceremony was ayahuasca, and I did that in Boulder, and then it was through that ceremony, Spirit really guides me. I get messages in all sorts of ways, but in that ceremony in the morning, it was very clear that it was like, okay, you're going to Colombia to do a vision quest with the shaman who was leading the ceremony. And I love Colombia. And so I was like, oh, great. Any excuse to go back, and ended up doing 4 vision quests down there. And so there was always plant medicine. It was peyote, it was peyote and ayahuasca, the two.
Now let's, you speak of these things, very casually compared to, like my experience. I remember speaking with you after you came back from some of these things, and a lot of folks don't understand, like you're putting work in, like your life could be, for me, it was very outer focused, and all of a sudden it was like this curiosity because of things not working in my life outside. I had to go inward, and in the inner direction, I have to say, it's like I'm a hardcore workout guy, and like these are some of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yes.
And maybe even just sharing, when you say a vision quest, okay, so she went up on a mountain and read a book, and had all these brought a bunch of crossword puzzles and activities to engage with. Like, what is a vision quest? Sounds really beautiful, but my experience has been like a lot of the most beautiful wisdoms and truths that come to us. There's a bit of a ripping away of ego, and that's very discomforting. And most people have a lot invested there, and so that the idea of like not stacking more onto our identity, but removing all BS. Maybe speak a little bit to that, on your path, your experience.
Yeah, the vision quests definitely do that. It's where you're planted on the mountain, and you have every vision quest is different. I mean, the altar that I followed in Colombia was 4 nights, 7 nights, 9 nights, 13 nights on the mountain, which you could do one a year, or you could take 12 years. There's no, you don't have to do them consecutively. I think I took 7 years to do all of them in the end. But if you're going on the mountain in the first year, you get picked up on the 5th day, and you get no water, no food, nothing. It's quite fascinating to hear people like, oh, but you're going to die if you don't have water after the 3rd day. And I'm like, well, I'm still here. I didn't die. I know lots of people have done it. But yeah, you get to a new level of appreciation for food and for water, for the basics in life. You only had 2 layers of clothing, a blanket, and what you want for your altar, and a hat, and that's it. And in Colombia, there was no dangerous animals, but the temperatures could be up to 85 during the day and as low as 48 at night. And when you haven't eaten, your temperature drops, and it's cold. So yeah, and it rains. So that first year, 4 years, it rained a lot, and they took pity on us and brought us a little piece of plastic, which helped a little bit. But and then the next year, the 7 days, I don't actually remember that one as well, but there you get we got peyote tea and a carrot and 3 pieces of fruit on the 5th day. Right. So
you're really sitting with yourself. You're not like in your,
oh no, yeah, nothing.
where you can adjust the temperature to keep it nice and comfy at 70.
You're with nature. Yeah.
You're with nature, and nature is like the sun is coming out. And then it's like, oh no, the sun is going down.
Yeah. And ants, I didn't personally have any ants, but mosquitoes, ants. Yeah, you're dealing with all the elements in whatever way they're showing, and they're all going to be medicine for you. So I think my 9 days, it was very hot. And so we ended up dealing with that. I personally didn't have ants, but there were other people that were where they were planted. There were ants everywhere, and they were being bitten, right? My last year, 13 nights was rain. It would rain there, but to 10 nights out of the 13, it rained. It was brutal, absolutely brutal. And you don't have anything to do. I mean, you are literally with yourself. There's no books, there's no journal, they take your word, you're not allowed to talk.
No forms of distracting and just any way to disassociate and remove yourself. Like you're here and now.
You're here and now, right? And then you get to really look inward. Yeah. And work with what's coming up.
Why would someone want to put themselves through something like miserable ants biting you, rain? Like, why would you leave your perfectly good home and get off your couch and go do something like this when there's plenty of forms of entertainment in your life and ways to deal with the hard stuff, so to speak?
Well, in my experience as a healer, as a shamaness, and I've seen over and over again, we humans need the pain to grow.
Okay.
And it's in those dark moments where you're just like, what the hell am I doing here? Or why am I doing this? That's where the growth comes and the expansion. And so again, when we get, it's like the cancer patient who's had this, life and then gets diagnosed, that's usually where that profound shift will happen, or a breakup. Or for me, it was, I think probably every year these vision quests have a lesson, and the last year was integrity. And I was not in integrity. The rules of this altar was that you had to stay, you have prayer ties, which are made of tobacco, and you make them and they go all around you, and you have a bigger space, you got a big tree, and you can't go out of that space. That's where you have to be for the 2 weeks. And it rained so much and I was so cold, and my ego was like, you've suffered enough. You're starving. I mean, I probably lost 20 pounds on the mountain, and you're wet, you're muddy, you're okay, you dry out. Most days I dry out, but my clothes didn't, because the tree was so big. So I went out of my space and I put my clothes in the sunshine, because the sunshine was right there. And that was my lesson. I had to, because then you're put on the council after you've done your 13 days. And I had to come to the council and say, please take me off, because I was not in integrity. And so that was coming into right relation with them, right relationship with myself, coming into integrity, and really, I mean, humility, because that was, the ego was like, no, but you don't have to tell anybody. Nobody knows. You don't have to tell anybody. Well, spirit knows. I know. My soul knows.
Yeah.
And to
Like, I
walk the
can't get
path,
anything past my soul. My soul's watching everything.
absolutely. And the path that I walk, I have to be in right relation with myself and then with spirit to be that, to be the healer that I am, and to lead these ceremonies. I can't. So that was huge. And they've asked me, will I do it again? And I'm like, nah, I think I got my lesson.
So do you think there has to be this calling to do this kind of work, that there has to be some aspect of yourself in relating with the world and with others, that you need to, it's almost like going up under this tree in nature, you're almost, by putting yourself in this crucible, so to speak, you're creating a vacuum for spirit or truth to come in, for you to be, you need to be able to hear the subtle wisdom
Yeah.
to come through. The world's just too noisy and
Yeah.
too loud with distractions and ways for the ego to manipulate. Just like you said, on that one day, you just decide, I got to go put my clothes outside of these things here so that I can dry them off and figure out a way to make this, I'm going to make life more manageable for myself.
Yeah.
I'm in control.
Yes. Yep.
And is that an illusion? Is that something that, like, we are rock hurling through space, but yes, we are co-creators with things, but
Yeah.
the degree of like control we want to like inflict upon others or upon variables in our life, that really what we're trying to do is get to that seat of the soul, that place of awareness, that kind of I always kind of describe it as like this tower that's like, I'm good, my soul's good, everything's fine. Glenn, he's going to get thrown around like a rag doll in his Glenness, it's like, but so it's like we have to get outside of our box, a familiarity that our construct that we've put together, to have something more profound and new come in and move us onto the path of what we're supposed to be doing versus what we think we have to be doing, should be doing, putting up with, and torturing ourselves. Maybe speak a little bit to that kind of why. Would someone, what's driving people to want to come and do these type of plant ceremonies, and want to, why do you want to investigate versus just take everything for granted? I mean, just like, okay, we're on planet Earth, I'm here to work this job and provide for my family, or like why should we even bother? Maybe we're try to understand the unknown behind the scene. Maybe we're not supposed to figure it out. We're not supposed to get, maybe we're just supposed to just focus on trying to be happy all the time, and just I always kind of look at like just happy my little ant farm building, and playing this kind of monopoly game of life. But why would we need to like pull ourselves up out of this and get a different perspective? Why?
Good question. Well, we're in a great awakening, right? This COVID thing is just a little aspect of the bigger picture. It's been a time that's been prophesized by the ancients all over the world, of that humanity's being is given this opportunity to go to a whole new level of consciousness, from 3D to 5D. And that 5D is they're calling it the golden age, the era of love, where the war does not exist, where competition doesn't, we're not being controlled. And like, we can't even fathom that right now. But just like anything, the old has to crumble for the new to come in. And so there's a lot of people that are seeking that, like, the plant medicines have been around for thousands and thousands of years. And people are seeking, they're just feeling this inner urge of like, there's got to be something more. And so they hear the calling of the medicines that resonate for them, because everybody, there's lots of different psychedelic plant medicines that are beautiful in different ways, different potencies, and people, they're just like calling them and just like, I have to do something different. I work with a lot of highly sensitive people who, they always say, I just want to help. I want to be of service. And they don't necessarily know what that is yet. And so the plant medicines can bring in that awareness. But a lot of times there also has to be a lot of healing on the trauma, but people are like, okay, I'm done. I am done with this ruling my life. I need a change. I need to heal through this to make a change and do something different. So there's a big calling. People are just, again, that's called the Great Awakening. People are waking up and saying, wait a minute, we've been dumbed down. A lot of our people say, oh, how do you do that? And I'm like, everybody can be clairvoyant. Everybody can be clairaudient. Everybody can be clairsentient. But our system, our societies, our cultures have like dumbed us down. Oh, not just in this lifetime, in hundreds and hundreds of years. And now we're getting an opportunity to remember, and the plant medicines are great for that. So
I know for myself, I came from the Bay Area. I did been exposed. I smoked weed a little bit, drank in college, and those weren't intentional practices at those times in my younger years. They were just, I was very health conscious, fitness conscious. Like it was just, I go out drinking with my buddies in the evening, and then I was like, I'm running on the, running that morning while everyone's sleeping and hungover. I'm sweating out all the toxins, and only in aspects coming into a realization that my intellect was not going to get me out of my suffering. And being in Boulder, Colorado, maybe hugged a few too many trees here, I got introduced to more intentional work. I kept hearing I'd done men's tribes and different things of just non-traditional routes to, all right, hey, I'm going to be with a bunch of men and I'm going to express my vulnerability and share what's coming up for me, and like sit with my shame, but find a sense of calm and acceptance with that. And then I'd hear about different books and I'd be like, oh, I heard about that book. I'm going to go read that book. I'm going to, take that course someone else mentioned. And so that personal growth junkie that I've always been was just off to the races and just following this direction. And then I got introduced to different medicines, from ayahuasca to, I think initially I did an MDMA session with a therapist, did a few rounds with that, but I'd never done like really, I think I tried ecstasy once when I was in my college years, very small amount, but I was, somehow I was just open. I just was like, okay, whatever I'm doing is not working. And I've got this hole in me that I'm trying to fill, this void. Then I'm using all these distractive components that only give me, like, at best, a temporary alleviation of a symptom. And I finally just got really inquisitive about, like, what is this hole? Am I actually, and maybe I am more the hole than I am this, this materialized form. And so I, listened again to, like, okay, go see this person. This person, can give me access to this tool or a variety of tools. And as I started to try these things out with intention, I just started realizing like, oh man, I've been like trying to use my head to solve these problems, and it's you can't do it. You can't use it through this little computer system, this data processing system, to drop into my heart space and get tapped into really the body. There were a lot of legs to this, a lot of different things I had to engage with myself that were very counterintuitive means. And so I'm hoping looks like our video froze up here, of course. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, no, I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It just froze on my end. I'm not sure why we're getting so glitchy today. But it was just like everything I was doing wasn't working, going from my head and me being so intelligent about things. It was like, this is not, I have to get into this weird feely place. I can't put to words a simple label or description. And I didn't want to sound like, you know, I wanted to be on the spiritual path, and I was putting it out there to the universe. Hey, I really want to be on my spiritual path. I feel called to this. And spirituality meant something different than the religious platform. It was more like, I want to understand and experience a greater degree of like freedom and tapped into source. Call it what you want, but like I wanted to tap into the mystery behind the scene, and it required an investigative process. It wasn't using this. And so for me, the plant medicines and ceremonies were a way, you know, we've done a number of sweat lodges and stuff together. It's like when you go into sweat, it's like good luck trying to think a whole bunch while you're in there. It's so damn hot, you get blasted out of your head. And that's why the music and all the ceremony aspects to that, and then even the prayer ties before you go into the sweat lodge, everything's designed to help you kind of get to a place. And so I guess where I'm going with this is like my intelligence was getting in the way. What I thought or what I had read about, which by the way was like very inaccurate in the actuality of something, because it was a way of just trying to simplify and like put a label on something so I could be done with it. And I love this kind of phrase of when you're in the knowing of something, you're not learning anything new. You can't let anything new in. So when you're coming to these quick simplifications of something, you've just kind of labeled, this is how this is. And like, well, no, now you can't get a million leagues deeper on that.
Yeah. And I think that's what you're perfectly, because I always say the conscious mind is only 5%. And so the subconscious, which is where all the good stuff is, we can't access it. And again, well, we can, but again, it's harder. And the mind thinks it's got it, but it just as you were describing, and that's where the plant medicines are so brilliant, because they go in the subconscious and they just bring to the surface. They show you things that you weren't aware of. I remember I was in an ayahuasca ceremony and I had a vision of me screaming out for my mom when I was like 8 or 9 months old in the crib, and she never came. And the medicine said, go sit in front of the fire and forgive your mother for abandoning you. I was like, well, again, I was that young. I wouldn't have known that. And so I listened and went and did that. So yeah, it's beautiful. And it's getting into the heart, right? Some are the medicines that I serve are definitely heart medicines. And that's part of the new energy too, is leading from our hearts, not our heads.
You know, I think early in my sitting in men's tribe, and a lot of the practices we were using was just how to be with feelings. Now, not I'm just spinning this story, but actually like being with how feelings land in the body, and go and sitting with like anxiety, for example, which, you know, not attended to can lead to depression. And like, oh, this anxiety is some wisdom maybe percolating up from the subconscious to try to tell me something. But our society says, feeling anxiety, get on your phone real quick and text 5 people, tell you they love you, you know, and Yeah, take a pill, watch a whole series of Netflix, porn, gamble, all whatever, food,
Yeah.
all of these things. And our society is very much designed to keep you asleep and not turn towards those sensations, but you're having these sensations. And I love how like Ram Dass kind of talks about, he kind of was the first person kind of really made sense of things, kind of like Steve Jobs says, you know, everything didn't make sense why I took that calligraphy class, to looking back now the dots connected. Well, Ram Dass has this kind of description I use often where he just talks about how, like, you know, these things visit you and at first they buckle you in the bathtub, you know, and but then at a certain point you realize they're going to continue to visit you, so make friends with them, invite them in for tea, and so you start to listen to your body. Your body has all this intelligence, like you said, there's like 5% maybe up here, but there's so much more going on. And if we can learn to tune into these very subtle wisdom coming up from the subconscious, these medicines, these tools can be very helpful for us to get at stuff that we're like, I don't know why this like random thing keeps going on with me. And like, maybe it's not so random. Maybe there's like the universe, God, source, like consciousness, awareness is trying to like have you see something. It's trying to reveal something. And your traditional, our traditional methods in society of trying to like discover these things, we're really not doing that. We're just trying to figure out ways to distract and disassociate and like put that comforting thing away. But as we talked about earlier, like pain can be your biggest teacher. We have to put ourselves into containers where that pain can reveal, you know, what's to come next. And I like the saying of like the acorn in the present moment, it's this acorn, but it's got like the history, all the ancestral lineage, all the oaks before, and then the oak that's going to grow, and all the saplings. Like in our body stores all this historical information, and then also not just the present moment, but everything that's come.
Yeah, exactly.
This body, so we can just get out of this little computer system that's running here and like really drop into the like the mainframe.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, there's lots of different ways to do that, right? Again, my areas are the energy work too is also potent for that, because as a healer, I mean, I see things, hear things, which again, we're in the person's awareness. And so that can also bring in new images, new information, so that the person can be aware and start connecting the dots. I always say half of what we're doing is raising our awareness, so that you can start connecting the dots and dropping more into the mainframe, as you say. Yeah.
Well, let's just say like I'm in mainstream America these days, and outside of the bubble Boulder, let's just say. So for folks that are you know, they hear cacao, they're like, okay, so you're just going to eat some chocolate powder that doesn't taste as good. And you're Reiki. Okay, I think that's some kind of massage thing where you don't even freaking touch me, but you just like hover over me and say, ooh, I just pulled out some brown stuff and some yellow stuff, and now it's gold, you know. And like I just spent $100 for a massage that, you know, like she got, or you know, like different things, like, you know, there's craniosacral, there's all these different things out there that the person who's you know, we can be very standoffish to these kind of things that we might quickly lay judgment on. Oh, this is some foofy, some thing that just like taking, you know, instead of getting a strong medication from the doctor, I'm going to take this supplement that's really mild, that's going to help me 6 months from now when I got a problem to deal with right now.
Yeah.
You speak a little bit to this, because I think there's, how do you bridge that understanding or lack of understanding and judgment around something that's just unknown?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, early on as I was building my practice, I probably in the beginning tried to explain and convince people that it really does work. Yeah, it's different. Yeah, it's not mainstream. But I also learned, just like with anything, we're all drawn to certain things, right? Our soul calls us, this works for you and this works for him and her. People who this resonates with, like with the Reiki. Reiki has been around for a long time, right? In the alternative medicine. So people are a little bit more familiar when I say Reiki. They're not like, oh, what's that? Right. This might be something they've heard. Maybe they don't fully understand it. But I find that people who are drawn to my work, they already have some idea. So I don't try to convince I mean, if someone really wants to know, but usually if they're like, you are a wackadoodle, I don't understand anything, they're not really interested in learning. But those that are like curious, then I will say it's like, Reiki can be like a massage for your soul. And it brings in, we set intentions of what it is that you want to create or manifest or heal. And I've often, especially I'm doing everything remotely now. So even my crew in Boulder had a hard time of like, no, but it's not going to be the same as in person. I said, energy is not limited to time or space. It works. And I can I channel a type of light language, which is it's kind of like sound healing. Sounds like I'm singing, but there's no words. And I can drum now. All of that I couldn't do when I worked at a wellness center. I said, give it a go. So COVID was actually a blessing for me because I left Boulder, came to Taos, and then people were forced to try the remote sessions. And they're like, oh yeah, this does work. And I'm like, yeah. I said, I don't understand how it all works, but it does. So
Now, can it work for someone who's like, I remember working with you getting Reiki at one point years back, and I've since got like 1 and 2 Reiki. Went through that whole training and learned about it, and it's like, okay, rather than like I'm gonna get a sports massage, I'm gonna get a massage for the soul, and we'll just do it via phone, or like I'm gonna send this to you today. Like, how's that work for someone who's just like, I don't know if this is working or not, like, oh, I really don't believe in this, like, can they still receive it? Can they still?
Well, I always set intentions. We set intentions, right? The person, so then that's an awareness piece. Okay, so we go through, there's guidance that's come in, healing came in, whatever it was for that person. And then I say, okay, just like it's that integration piece. Watch what happens in the week after the session, because the energy is going to still keep working with you. Right. And watch what happens. And it's then that person says, oh my God, like I did have that really good conversation with my boss where I really thought she wasn't going to hear me, and she did, or or I do feel better, or my relationship is better, right? Because I do a check-in a week later, like, how you doing? And so again, not for everybody, but the ones who generally give it a go are just like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. There's something to it. So, but I also, the people that come to it have to want to take responsibility and make changes, because I find that I don't work with people who are still in victimhood. This mentorship program is a really deep dive. And I do an application call because I'm just like, I will not work with people who are stuck in victimhood.
Yeah,
you got to take.
They're at that lower level vibration, and they're not open. They're very restricted. They're probably thinking, it's kind of like when you're at a low vibration, you don't want to hear about everybody at like a high vibration. It's like we just are just like on the polar opposite, and it's just the ability to serve each other. I mean, someone that's a higher place can show you what's possible, but also when you're at a higher level, it's like, I don't want to get drop back to this because I've already done my work to get out of that space. So often,
great training.
Yeah.
It's so again, I always say, you created your world. Everything that is happening in your world is happening for you, not to you. Right? That's the place of you taking responsibility, radical responsibility.
And how toxic and destructive is that space, that energy, when someone's in that victim place, like it's someone like drowning, like if you get in with them, they're gonna drown you too.
Yeah. I personally, I've been doing this almost 13 years now. I personally I don't go there. Because it's like leading a horse to water. You can't make him drink. If they're stuck in victimhood saying, poor me, all this horrible things happened to me, poor me, Well, there's nothing I can.
So they're going to be very kind of blamey and attacky, and also they're just like, you're trying. And I know you as a healer and someone who cares, it's like, okay, this person's created this drama cycle for themselves. They're creating, because they haven't gone out in the woods and killed the bear. They're creating this thing to almost like create their rite of passage for themselves. They're in it, like they're creating this cocoon for themselves that they're going to have to fight to break free out of.
Yeah, it's easy to be a victim, right? It's everyone else's fault. It's just, you know, it's easy.
Everything's happening to me.
Right.
I have no say in this. This person's doing this. The circumstances here created that, versus someone who's like, you know, in spite of this, you know, I'm going to use this opportunity right now, not being perfect. You know, I often people think I'm crazy. I was up in Kremlin and a white squall blizzard was blowing in, and I was like, perfect time to go for a run and build some character and draw some fire up. You know, it was you know, and I was running in deep snow to my hips, and definitely going through my own crazy of like, what the hell am I doing out here? Why am I doing this thing again? And anyone outside is not going to validate that this is a smart thing. Even I'm not validating it's a smart thing, but I'm using the difficult situations, circumstances to nothing outside me is controlling me or in charge. I'm in charge of my perception and what I want to, like I said, use to forge something new and create a back. In fact, a lot of times I do these things not necessarily for the specific desired outcome, but that mystery is going to come in next.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I'm 5 weeks away from going to Peru. Spirit sends me on these missions, right? Okay. And I had no plans of going to Peru, but I love South America, so I'm happy to be going. But I'm going to be studying Andean cosmology, working with a couple shamans down there. And one of the things that we're going to be having to do is going into the glacier waters for a cleanse. And cold water is my absolute nightmare. I can't stand cold water.
You don't gravitate towards cold water in your life.
Oh my God. And I'm having to work with it right now, because I know
it's like calling you. It's like, this is where you have to go. The thing you don't want to do, that's the thing you got to go do.
And I'm you know, the Wim Hof, everyone's doing the Wim Hof, the deep,
got a bunch of that.
I can't even do a cold shower at this point. And I just know something is, I mean, we're going to be doing lots of cleaning and cleansing and healing and learning. And I mean, I don't know. Spirit sending
me someone who can't even do a cold shower is going like, that's where I need to go to, like somewhere, you know, like that's where you know, even a normal person wouldn't do. Like I was sharing with you earlier when we got on the call, I'm going to go climb Devil's Tower, the Close Encounter Rock, and I have a fear of heights. I climbed the 3 Flatirons. You know, I had a reading disability that was, you know, not diagnosed, but like I read 300 books in a year. I threw myself into things that everything about me says like, this is just, you know, not for you. This is not for you. You lack
this. Ego gets in there. Yeah, exactly. And so when you just, you push yourself and you go beyond, again, spirit guides me. So I listen, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I love what, you know, and maybe this is helpful to the audience. Like when you say spirit guides me, I always, you know, I came to this, understanding that the I am Glenn. Glenn is like this puppet who has a limiting filtering system of seeing the world and experiencing the world, and very restricted, and keeps getting lenses taken off so he has more expansive viewpoints of things. But the I am, the more I can remember and reconnect with spirit or consciousness, awareness, being in the observation place, where it's like I'm good. I'm safe, I'm whole, I'm tapped into everything. We're all oneness connected. But you know, I like you know, Moji described like vast as the sky. You know, it's like that's always whether it's from the meditation mat or the way I interact with life or the medicines, it's like, how do I get back to that place that sweet place that's undescribable, before the narrative.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a practice. It's definitely a practice. You might be there. A couple of days ago, I just was really feeling, it's been again, for me, a big challenge to move out of Boulder to Taos. And I've been here a year and a half, and I
Which
was,
is so beautiful there. So
yeah. But again, moving in the middle of a pandemic, and people didn't want to get to know you. So no community, no friends, right? But I was just the other day, I was feeling the sweetness of, okay, I'm finally making some friends. I'm forming a little bit of a community. And I felt like a couple of days of like real joy that I hadn't felt for a while.
mm.
And then it dissipates a little bit, right? And then something else comes up. So it's just because you've gone back into more of the discomfort, or maybe the mind is having a bit more control than you wish it would. It's a balance. Then you're like, it's not beating yourself up because you're there. It's just like, oh, observing, as you said, observing yourself, and then, okay, and then doing what you need to come back into that place where you really are connected to spirit and being led by spirit. So it's the muscle.
Well, how might you help folks with this muscle? Folks that I know you're gonna be heading to Peru here in a little bit, but what are some of the projects that you're up to right now? And how would people find you? What are some creative ways that people can get, just kind of do their stalking online,
Right.
looking up your information? You've got a lot of videos and different
Yeah.
tutorials even posted. So maybe we could share that right now with everybody.
So I've got a plant medicine ceremony happening here in Taos on May 21st, and then one on July 9th up in Boulder. So I go back and forth between the two. I've got my website, which is dreamtimehealings.com. I can be found there, and I'm pretty active on Instagram. Lots of posts there, and Facebook, but probably more on Facebook. I mean on Instagram, and yeah, those are the areas. And the mentorship is a really deep dive, really helping. I love working with people, again, people who are ready to say, okay, I'm taking full responsibility that I'm a highly sensitive person, I'm an empath, and I really want to shine within that. And so that mentorship is a deep dive into that, which I love. And but again, if you're not quite ready for that, it's the spirit Reiki healing sessions are also an option via remote. So
Great way to get introduced. Okay.
yeah.
Great. Well, I just want to thank you so much for being here today and just
Thank you. This was
me.
fun.
It's great catching up. It's been a little while, and I hope everybody had a pad of paper and a pen out, got some nuggets of wisdom, and has you have Helen's contact information now to reach out. Just have a conversation. Start a conversation. Just exploring, be inquisitive, about maybe there's so much more going on than meets the eye with things. There's so much below the surface that can bring a lot of life into your life right now. And just want to thank everybody, and thank you. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, everybody.